Motormouths. I'm your host, Marquise, president of the Motormouths, because guess what? I'm always talking and I never run out of things to say. I thank you all for joining. There we go. Very good, very good, very good. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is time for Motor Miles. I'm your host, Marquise. We just jumped off of my my TikTok page. We're here on YouTube, and it's time for us to get down to business. I have a very special guest with me tonight. This is Miss Annie. We have a lot to cover. We're going to give it a couple of minutes to allow some of my people from TikTok to come on over, and then we'll get the party started. You feeling okay tonight?
I'm feeling good. How about you?
I clean up okay, right?
I like it. I like
it. Hey, you saw what I had on in that TikTok video.
I did. You changed real quick. Real quick.
Just like that. Look, and then I had to run down. All my equipment was upstairs with my baby. So my wife came in the nick of time. So I'm running downstairs with all of my stuff, trying to get set up and changed. Yeah. It was good. I felt like I was starting a concert or something. It was crazy.
But you look great. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're starting to get people on. There's Sonia. How you doing, Sonia? Sonia was the person that I interviewed on last week. We got another good one tonight, Miss Sonia. We're going to continue the conversation that we had, and we started with Miss Sonia on last week. Last week, for those of you who were here, we talked about the preacher who basically made the young lady get up and apologize for being not a teenager, but being pregnant in the church and unwed. So this very special guest, Miss Annie, reached out to me. We were talking directly inside of TikTok. She came into the live. She was only able to stay for a little while, but she wanted to come in and expound on the story because she has a very similar story herself, which has many, many layers, and we're going to explore it. And of course, I get to do what I love to do, and that's the interview. So again, we're just giving people a little bit of time to come on over here. It takes them a minute, and then we're going to get started. As you all are coming in, I need you guys to do me a huge favor and hit that thumbs up at the top. And please let me know that you're here so that I can shout you out as well as we're getting started. Sonia, I see you. How you doing? Lev Low, hello. How you doing? Good to see you again. And you guys know I'm going to butcher your name, so please forgive me. What is this? Jelly Players, good to see you. Please let me know that you're here so I can shout you out. We got 18 people in the room. Hey, look, we're just getting started. This is awesome. Ivan, good to see you. Good to see you. Can you say Ivan and Darius and Brandon and Abel and Ryder and Carl? I think I got them all. Hello. Welcome to, I hope you guys have subscribed. I'm here each and every Friday night. I am Marquise. I'm your host, and I am president of the Motor Miles. That's what we do over here. We have adult conversations. We talk about any and everything. And when I'm lucky, I get very special guests in the box like Miss Annie, and she gets to testify and give her own story and add some gravity to some of these topics of discussion that we're having throughout the week. So thank you all for being here. Who we got? Hello, love from France.
Wow.
That is awesome. Hello, cool. Vendura. Good to see you. That is one of those places that is definitely on my bucket list. Now that my TikTok check is about to go, it may be a little longer. But eventually, at some point, I'm going to get across the pond and visit. So thank you for joining me from all the way over there. What time is it in France? All right, we got who it is? Floofy. Hi. Football. Hello. How you doing? They retracted their message. I hope it wasn't too terrible. Ivan. Hello. And Angry. Yo, I don't know what that means, but good. Thank you. Hey, we got 25 people in the room. I need you guys to go up there and hit that thumbs up for me. That sends me out on the algorithm to let people know that we're about to have a really great conversation tonight. So please do me a huge favor and hit that button up at the top. Keep the conversation going down here in the comment section. Throughout the interview, I will stop and read the comments so you guys are not being ignored. You're a part of this as well. After my interview ends, I will send out the link to anybody that wants to pop up, just like she's popping up, and chime in on the next subject of the night. But right now, it's all about her. So we don't need any help right now. This is about to turn into Montel Williams. This is what I love right here. I love interviewing people. All right, nice day for a party, isn't it? Yes, it is. Oh, I clean up well, Del Rock. Hello, thank you so much. Yes, sir. I thank you. I thank you for that. Look, I go to church every Sunday, but church isn't churching anymore. People don't really dress up for church anymore. So the only time that I'm able to put on my good clothes is here, or when we have like a special event. So I got a bunch of good stuff upstairs, but yeah. I thought this is
I
about
kind
the
of
only.
miss those suit and ties and the motherboards hats and I
Yeah,
miss those.
all that stuff is just gone by the wayside. I had a cousin showed up at church in socks, Nike flip flops, sweatpants, and a dingy shirt. It looked like he had just literally rolled out of the bed. I was very, very angry. I'm like, this is, yeah, come as you are, y'all are just taking that way too far. And I don't have a problem with you looking casual, but you got to still look clean.
Presentable, right?
All right. Stop pointing. Okay, you guys know I have an issue with this pointing. For whatever reason, the way that I see you on the screen, technically you're on my right, but if I point to the right, they say it's the wrong direction. So I have to
Right.
point in the opposite direction.
Yes.
It drives me crazy because it's not like that on TikTok. It's literally wherever you are, but no, not here.
Okay.
I got to pretend like you're on the wall. And they get on to
Yeah,
me every
that's
single
actually
week
how it's
because I get
showing
it
the way that
wrong
you're
all the
pointing.
time. What's that?
It's the way that it's showing the way that you're pointing when you point the opposite way.
Yeah, it's
Th-
crazy. Yeah, now
Yeah.
this is opposite, and everybody says that's correct now, but
Yes.
not to me. This is a
Yeah.
wall. Your face is over there.
Okay.
But fine, I don't want to argue. I'm just gonna try my best to learn to just point forward.
It'll be fun.
It's bad. All right, we are ready. Yes, Miss Mickey, I got it now. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this interview. I think first of all, I got to take the time to say thank you so much for agreeing to come up here because some of these interviews can go left real fast and they can get a little rough. And I do have a tendency to dig, but just for information, not just to be mean or malicious in any way. And again, a lot of these subjects are very, very touchy. You know what I mean? So I try my best to be very sensitive when we, start talking about people's actual lives. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, just thank you
um,
so much for having me. I appreciate that.
man, you have no idea how excited I am each and every time I get somebody to interview. I've had some pretty big ones on TikTok, but what I love is interviewing everyday
People.
people. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Those TikTok famous folks. That's a whole nother thing. But to
Right.
interview regular people, people that have tests, because people need to understand everybody has a testimony.
Correct.
Everybody has something that they can share to help other people. I share my testimony as often as I can, but there's only so many times I can tell my testimony. So
Totally
only so
understandable.
many. I mean, and a lot of these people return every week, so you all know my testimony. You know what I mean? So to have some fresh blood here and some fresh perspective and a new testimony, and it just means the world to me. And I always leave with a lot more than I ever came here with. And to have somebody, a beautiful lady here, I know it's kind of exploitive.
Thank you.
But
I tried to
it's
clean
good
up.
for it
Tried.
is good for the numbers. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. So I want you to take me all the way back because first and foremost, we have to acknowledge the fact that you are a preacher's kid. And although I come from a long line of ministers, I am not a direct preacher's kid. And all of the direct preacher kids in my family are some of the worst. They're like the worst people in the world. I don't know. I don't know if the devil just attacks them a little bit more or what. And as a preacher kid yourself, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to expound on it and give your theory on why y'all
Oh
seem to
God,
be the
yes.
rotten fruit all the time. And
We're
maybe you're
not
that
all.
rare exception that doesn't apply. I don't know. We're gonna find out in a few minutes. So without that, go ahead and introduce yourself to the world and let's get started on your story.
Hi everyone,
Hey,
I'm
Mia.
Annie. Um, I'm Annie. I'm thankfully happily married. Three children. As Marquise was saying, I did have a child out of wedlock. I was well, I've been a PK bride as long as I can remember. My dad's an elder. My mom is a missionary. We basically church was our entire lives from Sunday to Sunday. It was just church. My parents raised six of us. We had four girls, two boys. um, we lived in a very, very, very strict household.
Okay.
Pretty much as far as like the girls, we couldn't do much of anything. Like if we wanted to go hang out with our friends, it wasn't okay, be home when the street lights come on. No, you're going to stay right here in our front yard. You're going to play. But the boys, they could come and go as they pleased. It was okay.
Okay, let me pause, and again, I'll be doing this throughout the interview. Could you give me the age gaps between you and your siblings so I can
Oh,
get a
Lord
better
Jesus.
understanding of where you fall in?
So I'm actually the youngest.
Oh, you're the baby. Oh,
I'm the
oh, we're in
baby.
trouble.
So yeah, I caught it the worst. My
So
oldest
you're the
sister,
baby.
I'm the
Okay.
baby. My sister is 52. The one below that is 50.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is 49.
Oh,
My
wow.
other sister after him is 47.
Oh,
And
wow.
then my younger brother, well, my older brother, he's 46, and then I'm 45.
And for clarification, what denomination were you all a part of?
Originally, we were, excuse me, originally we were apostolic.
Mm-hmm.
We left that church after we realized some things just weren't right, and
Okay.
then we went to Pentecostal, and then we went from Pentecostal to Kojic, stayed there forever, but now we're all non-denominational, thank God.
Okay. So you said your dad that's an elder
Yes,
and your mom was a
a
missionary.
missionary. Yes.
Missionary. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. So now that we know that she's the baby, this story is really going to take some left turns. So and I caught at the very beginning that there was a vast separation with regards to the level of I guess I can say freedom with
Mhm.
regard between the girls and the boys, and that's that you remember that as far back as you can remember.
Oh yes, yes.
Mm,
So, like for example, we would come home from school, and of course we had friends. The boys, they were able to, because we lived in a suburban area in New York, so the
okay.
boys, they were able to, ride their bikes, go behind the house, go to the apartment complexes, play with their friends. Us girls, we had to stay no farther than the driveway.
Oh.
We couldn't do what they did.
Oh.
But I mean, we lived a very sheltered life. I mean, it was a great life, but it was very sheltered and strict.
So
Very strict.
you're Sunday to Sunday, so I'm assuming you were at every
Oh
Bible
goodness.
study, all the choir rehearsals. Were you in the choir? Did you play an instrument or sing?
I did not play an instrument. I'm really not very. I don't sing. Mm-mm.
Well, what did they have you doing then? Were you an usher?
Well, they tried to have me usher, but basically, I was just, because I was the youngest. I was just basically up on the front row.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, it was treacherous. But
Can
yeah, of course, you always have to get there before the rest of the members get there. You got to set everything
they
up,
make
make
us
sure
run?
everything's going. Yeah, so it was, of course, morning service, afternoon service. Don't forget Sunday school. All that fun stuff. But yeah,
Okay,
we
can
were.
can we touch a little bit on the style of dress for those religious sectors? How were you all dressed at that time?
Oh boy. Okay, so for apostolic,
Mm.
apostolic back then, and keep in mind this was in the 80s. I don't know if this is what it is now. In the 80s, the apostolic church, you had to have dresses pretty much at the ankles, if not below. You were not allowed to wear red. You were not allowed to wear fishnet stockings. You were not allowed to wear nail polish. You were not allowed to wear jewelry. Definitely, I mean, I know hair weave really wasn't a thing back then, but you
Hmm.
weren't allowed to wear that either. The way people got married in the apostolic churches, instead of wearing wedding rings, they had to switch watches. So they would buy each other watches, and that's how they would say their vows and get married. Yeah, it was crazy. Um, even
Watches.
it was weird. It was very weird.
Like
So people,
Timexes, were they expensive watches?
they were those. Do you remember those nugget watches?
Oh
The gold.
yes, I remember the nugget rings.
Yeah. So my parents, it was funny because my dad had like this big nugget watch, and my mom had this little nugget watch, and I'm like, I don't understand it, but that was then.
What was the symbolism? Why a
We
timepiece? Was there any rhyme or reason to it
I
being
guess
watches?
because so we could keep track of time, that was the only piece of jewelry that was allowed. But other
Oh,
than
okay,
that,
because you're not
no.
allowed to wear jewelry.
Correct.
Horrible. Oh my God. Okay,
Tell me about it.
let's keep
So
going. Yeah, yes, I'm going to be judging. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. But yeah, so like even for example, now we like us as girls, we did have friends, but if we wanted to spend the night or hang out with one of our girl church friends at
Hmm.
another at their house, we had to have our parents go before the bishop and ask the bishop if it was okay. And if the bishop said no, you better not move. You
So,
better
well, let
not.
me ask this: were did these people have to also be a part of the church, or you were able to fraternize with people outside of the church in
Oh
that
no,
way?
they had to be part of the church.
Oh,
Part of the
wow.
church. And
Okay.
the dresses, back then, as far as women, if you went to work, you had to wear a dress. I remember my mom going, she used to work for GE Electric. No, it used to be Black and Decker, I'm sorry. And she would go to work every day with a skirt on, and I'd be looking at her
Yep.
like, no way. And we
Yep.
had to do the same thing going to school. We had to wear like we were like little pilgrims. I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm. Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
But
Now
I
we were
think
Pentecostal
mhm,
growing up. I'm still Pentecostal, and when I was very very small, I could remember when the ladies still couldn't wear pants, in the church. I think as time went on, it got a little bit more acceptable.
oh yeah.
And at this point, you can wear what you want. But yeah, it was very 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 highly frowned upon to
Oh
even
yeah.
dare to wear a pair of pants, anywhere, let alone church. So yeah, that part I definitely understand. All
Yeah,
right, let's
it's
continue.
crazy. So then the Pentecostal, once we moved from apostolic, we went to Pentecostal. Back then, when we first started, but things did change.
Hmm.
We then started, of course, the skirts were they had to be at least below the knee.
Hmm.
Things couldn't be too baggy. You could wear heels, but not really too high. Of course, makeup and all that was
Kitten
allowed, but
heels.
yeah, makeup was
Tap that
allowed, but
thumbs up, people. We got 24 people in the room. Okay, please hit that thumbs up button. This is good.
yes,
We are just getting started. I'm already having a
just
good
barely. But
time.
yeah,
Go ahead.
makeup was allowed, but you had to be careful because I remember there were some people back in my day when my mom would go to church and she would have like red nail polish. They would make little jokes and say like, "Oh, Jezebel," and be like,
Yep. Yep.
"Stop it,
Yep. Yep.
just stop it." But yeah, it was you had to wear dresses where you were when you were in church. You could pretty much as long as you weren't how should I put it? As long as you weren't like a minister or something in the church, you could get away with wearing pants, but only if they were a little bit baggy or if it wasn't church related. But I know now everything has changed. So now we can go to church, we can wear pants, we can wear heels,
Yeah.
the nails, the hair weave, thank God. Oh, and tattoos. Tattoos were strictly forbidden.
Uh-huh.
Tattoos were forbidden. You
Do
you
you
couldn't do it.
have any? Look. We're gonna fast forward for us. Do you have any?
15, 15, 15.
You
I
have
had to
15 tattoos.
listen, I had to read that Bible back to my daddy. I did. I
So
did.
you just a whole mural over there.
I did. But the catch is my tattoos, they aren't anything they all have meaning to them, like
Mm,
the names of my children, their date of birth, um, Bible verses like the 23rd Psalms, things like that. It's nothing like, a dragon or anything. But yeah, my dad, because he used to say, well, it says in the Bible, don't defile the temple and you're gonna do it. And I
mm-hmm.
was like, daddy, that was the Old Testament. That was
Mm-hmm.
Mosaic law, you
Mm-hmm.
gotta take it back. And he kind of just shut down, but eventually he caught it.
Yeah.
He's
Now
not
we
very
still,
keen
yeah,
on it, but
yeah, we still don't have tattoos. Myself and my wife, we don't have any to this very day. And not, I kind of, well, I do believe in not defiling the temple, but it's just, I think if I just never really had the desire for it. To be perfectly honest, it just wasn't very appealing to me. Um, especially, there are certain people that when they get these tattoos, you just look like a burn victim.
Yeah, and
You
you
know,
can't do that. But
to
the
me, you
funny
have to
thing
have a
is,
certain skin tone and for all that to work out. You know what I mean? And
but the funny story is the actual reason why I got my first tattoo was because of my son, who we're gonna speak on.
sure, sure.
People thought I kidnapped him. So
Oh
I
wow.
literally tattooed his name and his date of birth on me, on my neck.
Oh, okay. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay. So we're in the church.
Yeah.
You're growing up. Okay. Let me ask about your parents at this point. Why do you think there was such a big difference in the way that you and your sisters was reared versus the brothers? Where do you think that came out? Did both your parents behave in the same manner when it came down to that, or what are your thoughts around why there was such a big difference between the two genders?
I don't know. I feel like both of my parents really just wanted to protect us girls. They always said, the boys can go out, they can have fun, but the girls may get into trouble. So we just want to keep them protected, and that's just the way they always kept us. I really think now, thinking back, I think it was because they didn't want us to fall into getting pregnant so young, not finishing school, not doing
Mhm.
anything with ourselves, and we did the best that we could. I think we all turned out great, but I think that was their whole reason.
Oh, so it boils down to mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
That part.
That's the and
That
that
part.
that is and honestly, I think that's I know a lot of people that have had similar experiences where unfortunately the reality is as a man I can go out there and I have these same conversations with my daughter right now.
Mhm.
She's just turned 16. I, as a man, can go out there and father 15 babies tomorrow, and I'm still going to be looked at as a man. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. Deadbeat dad, however you want to put it, I'm still going to be looked at as a man.
Yes.
In this world that we live in, you can go out there and be seen with two different dudes on in the same week, and you're going to be labeled.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's an unfair system, but unfortunately that is just the way of the world, and I have to be real with her about that. And when it comes down to the baby thing, I can go out there and make these babies and walk away from them at any time. You
Mhm.
have got to bring it home. So I think
Exactly.
unfortunately I think that's why for a lot of people they guarded those girls a lot more than they did the boys, which I think is unfair and hypocritical to a degree, because you're teaching your daughters one thing and your sons something totally different. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I can think, even with my own family, with the boys, it's hey, wrap it up, go have fun, but the girls is keep them closed, and you know
Yep.
what I mean, that kind of thing. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? So they especially with the men in the family, they attach your masculinity, your manhood with bedding women. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas remaining virginal, made you a value as a woman, and it's
Yes.
a horrible way to treat the genders. And I try my best to be fair with both of my kids. My son's only 3; he don't know nothing. but my
He's young.
goal in life is to raise them with the same exact rules. You know what I
Right.
mean? I want you to value yourself as a woman. Obviously, I don't want you out here, passing it out with a coupon. I want you to fall in love and do it biblically. That is, adhere to the Bible as close as you can. Of course, you may stumble, you may make some mistakes, but you know what that word is, and I want you to abide by it, as close as you can.
Exactly.
And I want my son to feel the same way. I want you to feel like a whole complete man without thinking you got to bed everybody that walked past you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that
Yes.
that is my goal in life, is to raise them with the exact to feel the same way, to value themselves and their bodies in the same way. So we shall see. We shall find out. All right, let's continue.
With
We're still on you. We're
Oh,
we're
I'm
walking through
sorry.
we're
Walking
walking through
through.
the childhood,
Okay.
friend.
So
This is your interview. That was
so
just a brief. We just pulled the car over for a minute.
okay. Yeah, so
So
basically, I mean, childhood was I mean, for us it was great. We basically everything we did it as a very tight family knit unit. We did family trips, road trips, all that fun stuff. Speed pass. So
how
um
was how was the conversations with regard to sex in your family? Were those conversations that were ever had? Oh, you have to take a little sip behind that. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, while you're sipping and gathering your thoughts, let me talk about my mama. My mama was 15 when she had me. She did marry my father the following year, but biblically, I'm still a bastard child.
Lord.
and and proud of it. Last week, I wish you were here. We had the every time someone came in the box, they were called a bastard. So we had a whole bastard show because we were talking about the kid that's born out of wedlock. So we turned it into a big joke. But my mom, even in recent times, as we're older now. Well, I'm grown, she's grown, and we were able to sit down and really have these conversations. And she's like, "Well, my mom just never really talked to me about sex and how to carry myself. The do's, the don'ts, the ins, the outs. The consequences for your actions." And at the time, she was going through a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of childhood things, and she was just basically looking for somebody to love her. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, Daddy O came on in the room, and he's but 4 years older than her, which I'm trying to figure out how is that not a crime, but okay. And boom, pow, I'm here now. So and then she had another child, my sister at 16. By the time she was 20, she had three babies, and it's the craziest thing to me because I was 23, 24 when me and my wife have been together since seventh grade, and it's about to be 20 years this year that we've been married.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and so all of my experiences have been with my wife, my first everything. You know what I mean? So for me to think about, when my mom was 24, she had a 10-year-old. I just could not imagine. I was 24 with a newborn. There's no way. You know what I mean? And she had two other children, had a sick baby, and well, my youngest sister passed at 2. But you had a sick baby, a boy and a girl that are a year apart, and you're barely, and you're not even old enough to drink. You know what I mean? So the
Correct.
sacrifices that were made, of course, she made a lot of mistakes, but this is not my testimony tonight. But I'm
No, but
saying all of that to say that it's pivotal, as a community, as fathers and as mothers, to have those conversations with our children. I know
mhm,
they can be difficult. I know they are very uncomfortable to have, but you want to be the one to teach your children about the birds and the bees, because if they don't learn it from you, they're going to learn from those little idiots at school, and
exactly.
and things are going to go awry. So I'm very thankful. Thank God my daughter is still pure as the driven snow.
Yes.
But I thank God that I was able to get past the idea, oh, not my daughter, and get to the point where, okay, this is a human being. You
Correct.
had feelings. Her mama had feelings. Y'all had feelings together. So, of course, at some point, this child is going to start feeling these same ways. So you got to
Right.
prepare them and let them know, that this is the way that things are supposed to be, and be able to have that open dialogue so that we can have those conversations, so that you don't end up sneaking around and falling into some of these pitfalls with these, and you're bringing home a baby that we are going to ultimately have to support, because you don't
Exactly.
have a job, and whoever you
Exactly.
mentioned with probably don't have one either. So you know what I'm saying. So that is definitely how I try my best to do it in that way. So that was the gist of. Ooh, here we go. That is the gist of that. The gist of that question. So now that you've had your sip, you're telling me that as the preacher's kid, mom and daddy, they didn't want to talk about sex, huh?
No, it was just you better not ever. If I hear tell, it's gonna be a whole nother story. You
Mm.
know, my mother was, if you do, oh my God, I'll just cry. And my dad was more of the, he's different now, so please don't hate on him.
No problem.
He was a, I'll send you to Africa and sew you up. And I'm like, Jesus Christ,
Oh
daddy, you trying?
wow.
Yeah, daddy was very, very strict.
Okay.
He showed his love in a very weird way, if you
Mm.
will.
Hmm.
He basically he didn't he re- to me he really didn't know how to love himself. So his way of showing love was, let me take you on a family trip to an amusement park, or I'm home for the weekend, or because all he did was work. That's all
Mm.
that man did was work. My mother stayed home. He worked. And when he wasn't working, he was preaching. When he wasn't preaching, he was working and taking care of his family. So
Well, let
that
me
was,
ask this.
mhm.
I've had this with a lot of preacher kids where they felt like the church took precedence over them, or that
Oh, yeah.
that dad was more of a guardian or a parent to the members of the church than he was to the kids. Did you feel that way at any point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Every time, because it was like, we were all, us as kids, we were always ready to go. We wanted to spend some time with daddy,
Thank you,
and
Thurman.
daddy was always busy. So here we are stuck with mom. And it's like, we want to spend time with daddy too. Well, daddy's got to go do this. Daddy's got to repair the church. The heater broke down. Daddy's got to fix it. And I'm just like, okay, so when do we, there was no like really spending time. And when we did spend time with him, 9 times out of 10, we were helping him fix something, which thankfully, I mean, by doing that, I learned a lot.
Hmm.
But in the same sentence, I felt like back then as a kid, I didn't get the love that I needed. And I
Okay.
almost feel that's why I stepped out at such a young age.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
See,
it's a lot.
I love the transparency and the honesty.
Yes.
This is why I do this thing. So okay. Okay. So you felt like he was too busy saving souls, so you had to go out
Yes.
there and find you a little love on your own.
Kind of.
I'm
Kind of.
paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, kind of. Because like we weren't we didn't have the interaction that other kids did. We
Hmm.
didn't get to go to school dances. We didn't get to go to
Oh yeah.
parades.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
no, we didn't get none of that.
Yeah.
None of that.
So were you allowed to even go to you could did you get to go to the prom at all? You
Nope.
couldn't even go to the prom. Oh.
No.
Oh.
None of us went to a prom. None of us.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
nightmare, right?
Oh.
We didn't go to the
You know, that
prom.
childhood ain't sounding so good right about now.
Believe it, it was good for us because I watched um the way other people grew up. Some people grew up without parents. Some people grew
Absolutely,
up
absolutely.
not having what we had. Some people even to this day still can't say, well, I've been out of state or I've been out of country.
Uh-huh.
We
Uh-huh.
could actually say we did.
Got
You
you.
know, we
I
we
got you.
made
So
something of
you did a lot
ourselves.
as family traveling
Yes.
and that sort of thing, but it's just those everyday experiences or those mile markers that most growing kids
Right.
growing up that you just didn't get the experience. Were you
Right.
able to celebrate holidays? That's
Right.
I guess that's more Jehovah
Christmas,
Witness.
Easter, New Year's.
Okay.
You can hang up Halloween. You can
Halloween was yeah, the same
hang it
for
up.
us in the Pentecostal church. Yep.
Yes.
And even
It's up.
now they don't do Halloween. They do Hallelujah night. So
Do
you
they
get
still pass out
candy and
tracts?
what's that?
Do they still pass out tracts?
Who
The
tracks?
Bible tracts?
I don't know anything about
Okay, so
that.
back in the day, they used to. It's almost like what Jehovah's Witnesses used to do. They used to have like these little Bible tract things and talking about, have you or do you know your Lord and Savior Jesus
Oh
Christ?
no,
And
we don't do that.
oh God, that used to be so embarrassing. My friends would
Oh, you
come to
mean
the
like
door and
the
mess.
little pamphlets?
Yes,
Okay, no. Well,
yeah.
no. No, I
People just
can't
come
do
around for
that. Jehovah
Halloween, and that's
Witness
what we
would
pass
never
out.
work for me. I'm not knocking on anybody's door trying to save anybody's soul. I'm not gonna be able to do it. All right, people. We got 21 people in the room. This interview is going great. I need you guys to hit that thumbs up button at the top. Let me know that you're here, and let me know that you're enjoying what we're doing. I see that. Oh, let me pause and read some of these comments. I want these people to feel like we're neglecting them. Crystal Marquise, I was about to say kitten heels. I laughed at that, but we were in the middle of talking at that time. Determined, thank you for joining us. So beautiful. I appreciate that. Uh, you're one of the good ones. I appreciate that. I try my best to be.
Yes,
Listen,
you are.
I need you all to understand that I grew up, I had a very difficult childhood. You know what I mean? Teenage mother, a father that was abusive, not to me, but to every woman in this life. So for
Mhm.
me having to watch women be pummeled, it does something to the psyche of a child. And to
Yes,
be
sir.
honest, that was one of my very first memories. Was watching or not watching necessarily, but hearing. I could remember me and my sister jumping up and down on the couch, just screaming and crying, and you're hearing things crash, and you're hearing the fighting. Now, my mom was no punk by any. She wasn't just laying there. She was fighting back, but my father's 2, 3 times her size. So, she was never
Wow.
going to win. You know what I mean? But But I thank God, and like I said, I'll try not to spend so much time on myself. But I think it all goes together. But I thank God because she had the power the strength to walk away. When my mom walked away, I was about 4 or 5 years old. She walked away with nothing but clothes, a bag of clothes for us and herself. And she had a arm baby who was very ill. She was premature and was premature because my father was abusive, and they were fighting during the pregnancy, so she gave birth early. And so my sister ended up having to have a liver transplant. She was born with an underdeveloped liver transplant. She had to be flown to New Orleans, helicopter. I can remember when they lifted her in the sky. It was like a movie, and got through the liver transplant. Now I wasn't there when this occurred, so this is just her telling me the story. She goes, your sister, her name was Tanika. She said she was never able to walk. She had I can't remember what the disease was called, but she was just very very fragile. And if you pulled on her too hard, you would literally break bones. So I could
Oh,
remember times that she would have cast on, just from everyday things that that shouldn't harm kids, but it would harm her. And I could remember things like that. She never actually learned to walk, but she said that she pulled up on the crib and looked over at the crib and looked her right in her face, and she laid down and left. Imagine that at 20, she was maybe 20, 21 years old when that occurred. So, I give my mama a lot of grace now. I didn't give her a lot of grace then, because I could not understand why things went the way that they went. I'm fast forwarding now, but my father, when my she left my father, she raised us by herself. There were years that went by where no one even knew where we lived. She got in the way, and she just wanted to protect her kids from any and everybody. So the entire my father's entire family, that side of the family, there were years that they didn't know where we lived. You know what I mean? She was just that serious about it. Got up on her feet. She got her a good job. She worked. We lived in the projects, but we were the best. We lived like kings in the project. I need you guys to understand this. Now my father, like she never would take him back, but he did financially. She put him on child support, but even outside of that, he would still buy us things. So, and I guess it was trying to win her back or what have you. But we had everything. We were like the first kids in the projects with a two-seater go-kart with the stripe down the middle. I mean, we were living.
oh, that's
I
cool.
mean, every video game console that came out, we had them, and we got them two at a time. Me and my sister couldn't share. So when the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo were out, I
Oh,
had one, she had
yes.
the other. When the Sega Genesis and the PlayStation came out, I had one, she had the other. I mean, we lived. Every pair of Michael Jordans that came out, we had, which is why I don't even buy them. We wore them the first time. So I,
Yes.
I actually bought my son a pair for Christmas, but that was only because I was protesting. My daughter wanted a pair of Uggs, and I hate those little things. They're
I love
expensive
those.
and they're ugly.
Those are
But
my favorite.
they're so hideous. I hate them. And so she was like, I really want them. I broke down and bought them. So I'm like, well, if you're getting these ugly, expensive shoes, I'm gonna buy my baby some ridiculously priced shoes as well. So
Aw.
of course he got a pair of Jordans that he won't be able to wear but probably 4 times, but it was just my protest.
He said, listen, I'm
but
done.
so I'm fast forwarding now. So my father was unalive when I was 15, violent death. He was a street pharmacist, and just died of violent death, multiple gunshots. He lived for about a couple of weeks after that. I can remember visiting him, head stapled, together. It was horrific, but he succumbed to his injuries. That same year, though, my mom walked out, left. Something snapped. You know what I mean? And now that I'm older, I understand. Okay, this woman didn't have a childhood. She had, she started off in a home that wasn't so great, with my grandmother. She was looking for love and found it. At least she thought she did. And I do think they loved each other. They were just very, very young. And unfortunately, my father was only repeating things that, that he saw, that he witnessed in his own life. So if this is what your idea of a man is, or if this is what the only representation that you had of maleness, then you're going to emulate that. So not giving him any, props or anything, but saying, okay, that unfortunately some people don't, they don't know how to overcome that, and they just become that. So
Right.
so she got away from him. She left. She got married and left. And when I say left, I mean there were years between phone calls, or she would pop up and stay a day or two and leave, and you wouldn't hear from her for 2 years. So
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
it was very, very rough. It's just part of the testimony. But um now, and just this year, we'll get back. I'm trying to get the short version, but all of that became fuel for me to say, okay, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to enter in relationship and have children all over the place. By the time my father died, he had 8 kids, three with his real wife. They never actually divorced. He had three with another woman. They lived a block away from us, and then he had two other kids, one on one side of town, another on the other side of town. Again, it was
Oh,
it was
wow.
it was just not the best example. And I said, I do not want a bunch of kids by a bunch of different women, and I do not want a situation where um, a child that I bring into this world ever has to experience what I
Yes.
experienced. That longing, because even though he was not the best of fathers, I still longed for a father. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There were things that I had to learn. I get upset every time I think about it. When learning to tie a tie, I had to learn how to tie a tie on YouTube. You know what I mean? I didn't have that male figure. That's something that simple that just sits with me to this day. Every time I put a tie around my neck, I think about it. This. You had to learn this
Sure did,
on.
Nikki.
Yeah, I had to learn this thing on my own. You know what I mean? But but when I got down again, and I guess that's why I was so serious in my pursuits of my wife. Again, we started off super young, but she showed me that love and that care. And again, we were friends. We started off as friends, so she was able to see me walk through all of these horrible things. Mind you, my father was unalive when I was 15. My uncle, I lost two uncles in rapid succession. So every born male on my father's side was gone. And it was a time in my life that I thought that, hey, you're not gonna make it to 40 because none of these men did. One got hit by a train, the other one got pew-pewed by his girlfriend. So I was like, yeah, you're gonna be doomed. I mean, I really had that mentality. And so when I got with my wife, and things turned. You know what I mean? And you understand that, unfortunately, even though you've gone through some of these horrible things, it is all in preparation. It's all in
Yes.
preparation of something that is much greater. You know what I mean? So we got together. We've been together, like I say, about to be 20 years at the end of this year. Married. And we started off in seventh grade, still together. We got 2 kids. The only kids we have are those that we made together
Oh,
after we got married.
exactly.
My 16-year-old, my 3-year-old, they're testimonies that we'll be here 3 or 4 hours if I get off into those. But what's the most healing about it is every time I look at that boy and that girl, it's like, ooh, you guys get to live the life that I never had. You guys
Yes.
have everything that I ever wanted. You have a mother and a father. You got a father that's going to be stern, but he's going to love you. He's going to talk to you. He's going to be there for
Yes.
you. And when things get a little too rough, because men can get a little rough sometimes, not in the delivery. I'm not abusive, please don't take it that way.
No.
But I can't get very. I can get a little rough with my word. Now I'm not cursing you out and calling out your name, but just very stern. This is just matter of fact. I guess I say it that way. And when sometimes that gets to be a bit much for my daughter, because as we're very much alike. If you've ever you've seen us in videos, oh, sorry,
You guys
wrong
are
way
hilarious.
again.
I love it.
You've seen us in videos, so you can see that chemistry, and it's just because our personalities are so meshed. Like if I were a
Yes.
girl, I'd be my daughter. you know, and my son is he got everything from his mama. It's like I don't know how this happened, but their personality, the way that he is just like his mom, just cool, collected, just I'm observant.
Yes,
You know what I mean? But me
love
and
it.
my daughter, we're here.
You guys are too cute. Oh my goodness.
It's beautiful though. It's beautiful. But and when I look at them, I'm like, it became a healing for me. You know what I mean? Because I get to, although I could never have that for myself, I'm able to give it to somebody else each
Yes,
and every day. And I know when I leave this world, I left that stamp on those kids, and that's something that simply cannot be erased. You know what I mean? So
yes.
it became a real healing thing for me. Now let me give this little piece about my mom, and then we'll then we'll get back to your interview. so
It's
so
okay.
my mom, me and my mom, we were estranged for quite some time. And it was because I got to the point where I just could not take it anymore. It was you cannot keep walking in and out of my life. You know what I
That
mean?
part.
Because I loved you so much. You know what I mean? And every time you walk back out, it was just like snapping a tree limb. It was the pain. It just felt fresh all over again. And I got to the point where I just couldn't take it. So I sat down with her one day. I said, "Look, you're gonna be in or you're gonna be out. You cannot continue to walk in and out of my life." And to be honest with you, it wasn't even me that gave me. I didn't have the strength to even say that. It wasn't until my daughter got here and she started doing that same thing with my daughter. I'm like, there's
Oh,
not a single person on earth that lies to my daughter. If they say they're gonna do it, they do it. If they can't do it, they actually call her. They don't call me. And this is when she was a little girl. Her grandmother and her grandfather are on her mom's side. If they can't do it, or they said I'm gonna do such and such, they would call that little girl and say, "Well, grandbaby, such and such happened, da da da," and she understood. You know what I mean? But I was like, nobody in her life disappoints her. You know what I mean? And you are not going to be the one to come here and break that in her. You know what I mean? To
right,
make to normalize that type of behavior. So you're going to be in or you're going to be out. And she chose to
right.
be out. And there was I didn't speak to her for a very long time. My sister kept in contact with her, so I knew she was alive, but we were just not in contact. And it wasn't until this year, and I actually did it live on my TikTok page. I turned 40, and she called me on my 40th birthday, and I hadn't heard from her in a very long time, and I ignored the call because I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? I am when that wall goes up, or when I
That's
go
it. Yep.
cold to you, it's like you may as well be dead. It's really really bad, and unfortunately, that also became my prison. I tell people all the time, the very wall you build up to protect yourself will become your prison at some point if you don't do that healing that's necessary. And that's what happened to me. And like me and my wife have been together a very long time, but I can look back on times and it was like, I wish I was where I am now mentally. You know what I mean? I never cheated or was abusive towards her at all, but I always left her wondering. You know what I mean? It was I would give her I would show you love. I would buy you things. I would take you places. I would do all those things for you. But to just sit there freely and baby, I love you, baby, I love no.
Because I think it was because of your upbringing. So that
Yes.
was your way of showing her that you
Yes.
loved her. Like you
Yes, but she was one of those people that wanted to hear it, and
absolutely
it was a tug of war with us. I'm like, well, I show you, I don't, and I felt like by me admitting that it would show my vulnerability, and I never wanted to be that vulnerable with anybody. I'm like, I had a mother, the person that supposed to love me the most in the world. She would tell me she loved me, and she walked right out of my life. So, that word. It had a stain on it, and it just didn't carry that same meaning for me. And when I said it, when I finally would say it, it would mean so much more because you know how hard it is for me to say this to you. You know what I mean?
right.
So, but I just hate that it took that many years for me to get past that. And it's like she suffered in a way, but based on things that had nothing to do with her, if that makes sense. So,
It
long
does.
long story short, we she contacted me the day after or on my birthday, and I ignored the call. I was talking on the phone with an aunt who was she's prophetic, if you know anything about that. So
Yes.
she's giving me a prophecy. She's saying, I know you're doing a lot, and she sees me on TikTok with, a quarter of a million followers, and I'm doing okay. She goes, I know you think you're doing well now, but please understand that this is all in preparation for something that is much greater. This is what she's saying.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're just being prepared for something that's much greater. I'm like, oh, okay.
Now I'm
you know.
curious. I'm curious for that one.
Yeah, but she said that, and the phone call came through during her saying that, and I ignored the call, and I sat down. I was just watching TV. I'm not gonna call her, and something said, okay, she thought enough of you this year to call you. You know what I mean? What's the harm in calling her back and saying thank you? I got on the phone with her. Now we moved into the house that we're living in now 3 years ago. We sold the last house. We lived in that house for 10 years, and the last house that my mom knew I lived in was that house from 10 years ago. She didn't even know where I lived. That's how strange we were. If I got hit by a car, she wouldn't even know where to go because she didn't know where I lived. And I got on the phone with her. She wished me a happy birthday, and I could tell you, we sat on the phone for about 8 hours that particular day.
Wow.
It was insane, but and I just let her talk. I just let her talk, and it wasn't until we got, and it was, a lot of niceties at first, and then the layers start coming off, and she finally got to what made her call me. Um, she called me because the night before, on the 14th, my birthday is June 15th. She called. She was sleeping. She had left the person that she'd been married to out there so long,
Mhm.
and she'd been sleeping with a shotgun under her pillow. Don't know why. She said it was for protection. I'm just gonna take her word for it.
It's a pretty big
And
gun.
I thought it was strange too. I really did. She woke up and moved her arm in some form or manner, and the gun went off. The gun goes off. The bullet travels. It goes through the bed and through the wall. She goes, if I would have just shifted my body in another manner, just a little bit, I could have been gone. And she goes, I did not want to leave this world without wishing you a happy birthday. And that was the beginning of where we are now. And so by July, I invited her up, and she came off. She came to my house for the first time in July of this year, to the new house. And she stayed. She stayed with us a couple of days, about maybe 3 days, and
Aw.
yeah, and we talked after that. Now we still don't talk every day, but we talk like once a week, and when we get on the phone, we have a good time. And by the time we got to July, she's like, well, I'm off. I would love to come up for the 4th of July. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. She came up. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I go live with my TikTok family each and every week. I'm there for them. I counsel them. I let them share their testimony, their hurt, and I do everything I can to help along that healing process with them. I
Mhm.
think it's time for them to see me because they don't know that I go through things just the way that they go through things. So,
Right.
if you're comfortable with it, I would like to sit down and have a real deal conversation with you. Now that we are in the midst of this healing process. And she agreed, surprisingly. Now,
Aw.
I'll be honest with you, I had every intention of building her story up and pushing her off a cliff. I did. I absolutely did.
Lord Jesus.
Because when it comes down to my mom, I see her as two different people. If you ask about me, my mother between 0 and 12, 13, she was perfect. But when that light switch went off, she became somebody I didn't recognize, and she was that person for many, many years. So I was going to build her up, take her all the way up to the top of that mountain, and set her up to push her off. And I was going to spend the rest of the show going off. That was the plan. But
I'm so happy
I,
you
I,
didn't.
I took her all the way up to the top of that mountain, and I was ready to push. And something happened in that moment. She did what I didn't expect her to do. She apologized. She took full accountability for all of her actions. And she gave a full explanation, you know, as to why she made the decisions that she made that caused her to abandon her son and her daughter. And by abandon, I basically had to take care of my sister from 15 up until I got married. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
yeah. So, and what I loved about it, she did it. At that night, we had thousands of people in the room. She did it in front of all of those people. And when she did it, I was so taken aback, the tears just start coming. And it was like that little
Aw.
boy. Everybody has that little boy and that little girl. It doesn't matter how old you get. If you've been harmed by a parent in any way, there's always a place that has to have that healing. And what
Yes.
I understood in that moment is I'm having something that many people will never get in their lifetime. My father can never do that. He's gone. But for many people, you have mothers that will leave this earth and never be able to sit in front of their child and admit to their wrongdoing and make amends.
Right.
So it became a beautiful thing. We ended up. My daughter turned 16, so it was perfect timing. She turned 16 in October. We did a 7-day cruise, and my mom joined us on the cruise. It was like the
Ooh.
best time. It was just a beautiful reunion. We plan on doing a update show a year from the last show, so it'll be in July. But for
Awesome.
and it was so many people there that were helped. Once my show ended, there were people that were calling their own mothers and fathers and setting up meetings and having those difficult conversations. So it was one of those things. So my goal, like I
Aw.
say, every time I come up here and interview somebody, and every time I'm out given an opportunity to give my testimonies to help people in just that way, because it was a healing thing. That was something I could have did. We didn't have to do this in front of the world. We could have sat on my couch downstairs and had this. And even after the live ended, we talked. We looked up and the sun was coming up, and we were still. And she was telling me things that I had no idea. No clue.
Wow.
Yeah. So, whew,
That's
I'm so we took. Well, look, we just pulled the call and turned it off.
love it.
I apologize.
No, I felt number one. I definitely felt that you needed to get that out. Number two, I definitely appreciate the fact that you even took the time to share that
Yeah.
because that's very touchy.
Yeah, yeah, but
Very.
it's all meant to help people. And like I say, I'm hoping that as this interview progresses, that we have that same experience, and we're getting there already.
Yes.
So all right, let's move forward now. So
Okay.
we enter into those teenage years with you again. You guys are already super sheltered. So
Yes.
with regard, okay, so the sex talk didn't happen with the boys or the girls. Nobody.
Honestly, I don't know if it happened with the boys
Okay.
because we were like when it came to things like that, we were always separated, but I assume my dad talked to them.
Mhm.
But that's basically about it.
Okay.
But speed passed. So of
Okay.
course we were told we were not allowed to date. At first it was we weren't allowed to date till 15. And then for me, because the older sisters, they're special. But my dad now don't take this the wrong way, anyone.
Mhm.
My dad, he was very religious, and he was very back then, he was very, you stick to your own race. At
Oh
one
no, I don't
point,
have. I actually, I do. I
no, but
still.
others do.
I have no problem with that. What's up, people? Please hit that thumbs up. We're having a great conversation tonight. Hit that thumbs up in the top
Yeah,
of this
so
screen. Show
my
some
my
love for this
dad,
show. But look, I have absolutely no problem with it. Now, my daughter, and I'm surprised that they want. Oop, wrong way again. I'm surprised. I'm
that
surprised that
way.
they even wanted you to even date at 15. They had to talk me into 16 because I was like, she can date at 18.
Well, no, the funny thing was when it got to me, when it got down to me, it was first it was 15, then 16, then maybe we'll talk about it by 17, but we'll get into that. So
Okay.
me being what was I, 13 at the time? Yeah, because I
Mhm.
just started going into high school. Once I started that, of course, you start the little sneaking
Mhm.
around and courting while you're in school. Now, no
Yeah.
sexual would happen. It would just, be kisses in
Yeah,
between
yeah.
classes, all that fun stuff. Speed past all of that. So I finally I get to this high school, and I meet this guy, and this guy, no joke, he reminds me of the kid Sunshine on Remember the Titans.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's what he looked like. I met him, and of course we were dating, if you will, for a while. And this was right around the time where I had just gotten my learner's permit. So I was pretty much at that moment when I had gotten my permit. I had started driving, I had started working, and I thought, oh yes, freedom. Big no no.
Okay.
But you know, we dated, had sex, unfortunate well, not unfortunately. But it was kind of crazy because his mother at the time, she was getting married again. And my parents actually okayed for me to go to his mom's wedding. Well, got home a little late. Oops. So so I didn't think anything of it. I thought, I had a great time. Thank you so much for letting me know. Back then, my parents were like, you can go, but have your butt in this house by 10 o'clock and make sure his parents drop you off. Okay. Um, that pretty much happened. We had a great time. The crazy thing about this whole pregnancy, I did not find out when I was a month pregnant, didn't find out at 2, didn't find out at 3. Keep going. I had no clue. So we were
So you
actually at
weren't
my
gaining
house.
a significant amount of weight or anything.
Nothing.
Still getting your monthly.
Still, still
Wow. Wow.
nothing.
Okay, and for
So
those of you who don't have not seen the movie, her long story short, her baby daddy is not black. He was white.
yeah, sorry.
Right.
Actually he's full
Okay,
blood
and
German.
I want to make a side note because we left that just in the air. Let me explain the reason why I want to because people do take things out of context. I do not have a problem with whomever you love, whoever you want to be with, and I teach
Mhm.
my daughter the same thing. Now, my daughter has only been allowed to date since she turned 16, but she hasn't quite found a boyfriend yet. Thank God. But of course that we started allowing her to talk to boys, a year or two before. You can be friends, but just let them know you're not allowed to date. So
Mhm.
there was this one guy in particular that really really liked her, but he was very fair skinned, and well, but he looked like a regular black guy. I just thought he was light, and it turned out that he had a white mom. And so I took that opportunity to have the conversation with my daughter. I'm like, okay, you're not dating, but I want to warn you of this before but if this turns out to be the guy that you ultimately, end
Right.
up with or start dating. Listen, love whoever you love. I mean, as long as they treat you well and treat you like I treat you like a princess, so he has to treat you like a queen. So as long as he treats you like a queen, I have no problem with him. They can be whatever color you want them to be. But understand, when you date outside of your race, there are a set of circumstances that you're going to have to
Yes.
face that you would never have to face if you stayed dating somebody that looked like your daddy. So
Exactly.
I'm like, he can be cool, his mama can be cool, but best believe at one of these dinners, there's going to be somebody there that's not going to like you because you are a little brown girl. It is
Yeah.
just a fact, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be a very hard pill for you to swallow. And then it's going to be the big test for your man, because if your
Mhm.
man doesn't stand up against his own people for you, then that's not the person you have to be with or need to be with.
Exactly.
And if he does, and that family decides they don't want to have anything to do with you, him, or that baby that you'll have at some point in the future, you got to be okay with that as well, because
Mhm.
racism is a very real thing. So
It is.
yeah, so when I say I totally understand where dad is coming from, it can be avoided if you just stay in your own box. But
Yeah.
if you want to love outside your box, just know you got to deal with all these other things that come along with that box. So
Exactly.
um,
Now, the
so
funny
that
thing was, like, my dad initially, he didn't know that he was white. My mom did, but not my dad. It's
mhm,
like my mom with her, it really didn't. Sorry, I think my baby's trying to get the door.
sure,
With my mom, she really didn't matter. She thought it was kind of cute, but if my dad ever found out, nah. So
right.
so we were actually, it was after school. He came over because of course my parents are both, my mom is out. I think she was shopping or something, but my dad was at work. But I knew my mom was out, so he had came over briefly, and we were play wrestling on my living room floor. And I'll never forget it. He jumped on top of me, and I felt something kick.
Oh wow.
And I said, something doesn't feel right. So I remember calling one of my friends, and I'm like, I think something's wrong. She said, well, meet me up at Walmart. We get to Walmart, we buy a pregnancy test. I still have no clue what's going on because nothing's changed. I
Oh,
go in the bathroom, I take the pregnancy test no sooner than I can pee on the stick. Pink.
two lines.
I cried like a baby. And anyone who knows me know that I don't cry for nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a funeral, but that's about it. I cried. And I didn't know what else to say. So I went to the neighbor's house and they were like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know." And the first thing I thought, abortion.
Mm.
Absolutely abortion. Can't do it. Absolutely not. My mom got home later that night, but of course he left like as soon as he found out. He said a few choice words, but they weren't mean words. He was just like in shock. But my mom got home and she was looking at me and she's like, "Why are you looking so crazy?" And I'm like, "I have something to tell you." And she said, "What is it?" And I said, "I'm pregnant." And first she looked at me shocked and then she smiled and she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, I can't. Mm-mm, no, no." And that was the first time I ever heard my mother say, "I swear to God, if you have an abortion, I will disown you. An abortion is a sin. You cannot do it. I will disown you." And I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm not even finished with high school. I'm 17, almost 18. I'm not even there." Like, and she said, "No, you're gonna do what everyone else did. You laid down, you made this baby, you're gonna get your butt up, you're gonna take care of this baby." I said, "Okay, fine." I went to and I told her, "Please don't say anything to my dad." She
Mm-hmm.
didn't, thank God she didn't say anything. I went to the doctor's office, we did the ultrasound. I'm watching this little boy kick, move, and they're like, "You never felt none of that?" And I'm like, "No, no."
Yeah. And you
Some
were
is
what,
still
5 months at the
I was
time?
5 months pregnant.
Yeah,
5 months.
my sister had a baby, or my nephew. He was a micro preemie. He was 23 weeker and born at 5 months. So it was a
Oh,
1 pound 3 ounce baby. So they are fully formed. For
yeah,
anybody that doesn't know, at 5 months your baby is fully formed. They're just
yeah.
small.
Yeah, and they
So
were they were
yeah,
showing me on the ultrasound, he's
yeah,
moving and swimming and kicking, and
yeah,
I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do?"
yeah.
So, I waited for about another, see about another week and a half,
Mhm.
and I told my mom, I said, "You know what? I think I know the best way to tell my dad." So, his favorite candy was Snickers. So I went and I bought a bunch of mini Snickers. I took them, I gave them to my mother. I said, "You can go ahead and break the news. I'm gonna go to my sister's house. I'm gonna stay there for a little while. Let me know when he cools."
Oh my word.
So he couldn't figure out, why wasn't I in church? What was I doing? Was I going to work? What was going on? She told him, she said he stayed in the shower for about a solid hour and a half.
My God.
Yeah, he was not happy. He didn't talk to me for about 2 months,
Oh
give or
wow.
take. But when I went to church, of course, he didn't make me apologize. He didn't make me get up in front of everybody. He didn't embarrass me or humiliate me. But he
Okay.
did say, "Make sure you're covered. Sit in the back, way back." He still didn't know at that time, this is going to be a biracial kid. But
Woo!
sit in the back, way back.
Well,
Well,
speaking of that, how did the father's family take the news?
their thing was, "Are you sure?
Are you sure you're pregnant, or are you sure
Are you
he's
sure
the
you're
dad?
pregnant? Are you sure this is your baby? Do you know?" Because
Wow.
again, if you're a girl, you're considered out there. But if you're a boy, mama's baby, papa's maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I basically, the few visits that I did have with the doctors, it was me and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
It was, or me or my mom. And,
Mm-hmm.
we basically we said, "Okay, we're just we're gonna ride this out. We're gonna do everything we need to do and keep it going." He was still somewhat in my life, but he wasn't like there. He wasn't supportive. Once I finally got to my dad, how did the boy handle? Well, he didn't handle it very well at all, but I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Once my dad finally got to understanding, then he asked me who, where was he, where did he live?
Oh my.
That wasn't pretty, but he was like, "Okay, we're here. Let's make the best of it." His way of showing us love was, well, at least for me, when he found out I was pregnant, was buying me, because back then my little favorite thing was clam chowder. So he would go to the dollar store and get me little cans of clam chowder, and I hated that clam chowder because it tasted horrible. I had to be New England, but he would do that. Once I started showing, he pretty much kind of hinted, you really don't need to be around, just go hide somewhere. So
Wow.
that's kind of what I did out of respect for him, because again, you're a preacher's kid, you're almost 18, you're not out of high school, but you're pregnant. And that was the thing for him too, because he's like, how are you going to graduate? How are you going to do everything now? You've just ruined your life. And I remember when I had that argument with him, I said, there's one thing I will do, and I will prove you wrong. Watch me. Watch me. So moving along,
So did
I
you did he feel did you feel like he was embarrassed or ashamed at the pregnancy?
very much,
Very much
very
so.
much,
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
Because here I am, I'm the youngest. The other sisters, well, next to the oldest, she was already married with a son. The oldest
Mm.
sister was in college. The one above me, she wasn't married, didn't have any kids. And of course, my brothers, they didn't have any kids, but well, no, my one brother did. I'm sorry. He got married and had a son and then a daughter. But here I am, the youngest. I've just basically skipped everything that he's preached.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're the black sheep, so let's keep you hidden for a little bit. So I did. I kind of I did a lot of working. I did a lot of working two jobs, because I said one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to slack, and I'm going to make sure my child has everything he needs. Now, my parents, they did try to help a little bit, but they made me learn the hard way how to
Mm-hmm.
become a mother. You're going to buy the crib, you're going to buy the clothes, you're going to do all of that. My mother, which I'll never forget, I got off work and I was going on maternity leave. She actually threw me a surprise baby shower.
Okay.
However, none of the members of the church were there.
Oh, that sounds like the lady of last week where they forbade her from having one.
Yeah, yeah, but
Wow.
I think it was because of the titles that they held. So it was more like, family surprise baby shower, here you go.
So were any of your friends allowed?
Yes.
They were
Yes,
allowed to attend.
yeah, I had a couple of my school friends come up, and they brought some gifts, and their parents brought some gifts, and
Huh.
people were shocked, but they supported me, which was the best thing they could have done, cuz honestly, I don't think I could have did it myself. Um
Wow. Okay.
so
Now look. Now, Mean Dad is about to come out. I asked somebody asked me this question just last week when we were visiting this topic, and I posed the question to everybody. I'm like, well, especially the dads that were in the room, would you allow your daughter to attend the baby shower if her little friend ended up getting pregnant? And I hate to say it, but probably not.
no.
I probably wouldn't. Now I would let my daughter we would buy gifts or whatever, but I would not if even now, if my daughter she's in the 10th grade, if any of her little friends got pricked up, you're not going to the baby shower. You can buy her a gift, but no, we're not.
Right.
We're not because I don't want you to get children, kids are impressionable. You know what I mean? And nowadays baby showers just totally different. And I know because I just had
Yes.
one 4 years ago. Our baby shower was on par with our wedding. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
It was ridiculous. It was black tie. I mean,
Yeah.
it was black tie. Everybody had on tuxedos. My wife was the only person in color. She had on a red ball gown. I mean, it was done up. We had a 3-tier baby shower cake.
Oh
We shot
wow.
a documentary. The documentary is here on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. It's called Blue Blessings, the Bonner Family Story. If you go over to the playlist, it's right down there. It's really good. But we shot a whole documentary. The whole baby shower was themed as a movie premiere, and red carpet movie premiere. It was ridiculous, but it was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
amazing. But I don't want my daughter to attend one of those for a little 15, 16-year-old and think, hey, that's kind of cool. Maybe I want a baby. You know what I mean?
To me, it's a fact of, if you teach them and you train them, they
True.
should be okay.
I got that, but I'm not taking any chance. The answer is just no.
But yeah,
But
so I
kudos to the families that allowed their little girls to come to your baby shower. Good for them. They much better off than I am. Continue.
well, no, I mean, they were just basically, I mean, to me it felt like, okay, this is what happens, so don't ever do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had him. My Both my parents came to the hospital. they,
Where was the
they
daddy? Because you hadn't that question has been sitting in the comment section for about 10 minutes now. How did the man? How did the baby daddy feel? And where was it? When you were at the hospital, we don't even know how he felt about the pregnancy. What's up?
when okay, so so when I found out that I was pregnant and I told him, he basically, and I'm paraphrasing, he basically said, "Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap."
Okay.
That was pretty much the end of that conversation.
So were
We
you
would
all not using protection at all? Now I'm getting
mm,
personal
no. Mm-mm.
because neither of you knew about it. Y'all was just so excited.
I I don't know if he knew. I know I didn't know. I had no
Okay.
clue.
See, which goes back, parents in the comment
I'm
section,
a deer in
to having
headlights.
conversations with your kids. Again, I teach my daughter about abstinence, but when you decide this is what you want to do and we can no longer talk you out of it, then
Yes.
we need to go get you some pills and teach you about contraception, because what I'm
Yes.
not gonna do is be anybody's granddad. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I
And you're
was a
not gonna
deer
be
in
screwing in my
headlights.
house, so it's so whatever's going on won't be here.
Exactly. But no, when I did give birth,
Okay.
finally, it was actually me, my mom, my sister, and my brother actually showed up, but he showed up at the very tail end.
Okay.
But they showed up. I did have my mom finally call the father. He showed up actually the next day,
Oh,
with a cute little dinosaur, and I think that was it. Yeah, dinosaur. That was when my dad actually came face to face with him.
is that when he realized that he wasn't black?
When he saw my son, he was like, "Wait a minute, is
You
this baby?
still hadn't told your daddy that your baby that baby was
Have,
biracial?
have you seen my daddy?
No. Well, I saw the picture of him. Yes, I did.
That
Yes,
man
I
is 6 foot. Okay, the man is 6'3". He's very tall. His ring finger is a size 17. No
did.
joke.
Oh,
I'm not telling him nothing.
17. I think
17.
I'm. What am I? Eight and a half. He's
So yeah, so
17.
like three of my fingers is one of his. Is his ring
Yeah.
finger. So
How
it's
tall are
huge.
you?
I'm 5'4".
Oh,
I'm
oh.
short.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
short. So yeah, I didn't tell him anything because I've already done three things that he's told me not to do. I've gotten involved with someone who wasn't my race. I've
Ooh.
already had unprotected sex,
Yeah.
and I'm not married, and he's a preacher. And yeah, I wasn't. So, I mean, he looked at him and, he asked the doctor, it was funny because it was my sister who asked the doctor, well, how dark is he going to get? And the doctor said, well, typically by the color of his scrotum sac. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing this number because that little area was only a hair lighter or hair darker than what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's looking, he's like, wait a minute, this boy has blue eyes. Annie,
Oh,
talk. And I'm like,
oh,
well, so,
oh my
so
God.
my dad finally met him, and my dad was like, I'll see you in a couple days. so,
Oh my God.
so speed pass, I came home. He did, I lived in, no, it wasn't in the South. I lived in upstate New York. I
Well, that was a
was
good
born and raised
question.
there.
Very good question,
Upstate New
Mickey.
York. Um, so I came home probably a week after being in the hospital with the baby, and that's when my son's father came again to visit. And excuse me, my dad told him then, you're going to help her take care of this baby. You're going to raise this baby. You're going to, do X, Y, Z. And he's okay. Okay. When it came to it, he really wasn't there. So speed pass about my mother, she decided she was going to go to work. So, excuse me, she started going to work. And my son at the time was 3 weeks old. And I'll never forget it. Me and my sister were trying to quiet my son, and my son was just crying and crying and crying. My dad got up, and typically he doesn't hold babies that little because he's afraid he's going to drop them. But my dad
Yeah,
got up,
yeah.
washed his hands, took the burp cloth, and says, "All right, Annie, give me the boy," and starts bouncing him up and down. He's like, "What's the matter, little buddy?" And my son starts falling asleep. And that moment right there was instantly when my dad basically forgot about the race, forgot about the, unprotected,
Sin.
yeah, forgot about everything, and just fell in love with them. And he said, listen, reach my back pocket, get my credit card, go to Walmart right now, get him a swing. And I did that. And then he turned around and said, okay, call that boy and have him come over here right now.
Oh,
So I called him and he's like, no, give me the phone. And he says, hey, buddy, I'm not going to mention his name. Says, hey, buddy,
sure.
I just bought your son a swing. You got about 10 minutes to get here.
Oh,
So, believe it or not, he showed up
okay,
and he paid my dad for the swing. And my
okay.
dad said, "You haven't been here for this child. This child needs diapers. This child needs wipes. Annie can't sit here and work and take care of this child, and her sister basically raise him on their own. You're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to help." He basically did nothing really other than diapers every once in a while, wipes every once in a while. My
Oh,
mom finally said, "You need to put him on child support."
okay.
I didn't want to do it, but I did.
And
Me
why not? I would love to hear the answer to that.
because I felt it was not necessary. Like I was already doing it for what? Like
Because your child deserved to be supported. What do you mean?
this is
It
true.
takes two parents to get these babies here. So why is it that you should have to bear the burden of rearing this or raising this child financially on your own?
Because
Look,
back
I am all for child support. You know what I mean? For deadbeat dads. Now I do have issues with the women that do it as punishment. You know what I mean?
right,
Or where this man is providing far more than your child support check would ever cover. But
right,
you're mad at him because he won't, be with you anymore, or he's moved on to somebody else, and then you go and put him on child support for that reason. Now, when you're being
right.
vindictive about it, then yeah, I have an issue with that. But for you in your case, the way you're describing it, no ma'am. Go down
No.
there and get your money. Absolutely.
No, my
Okay.
thing was, I didn't want to bother him. I felt like if he didn't want to be in this child's life, fine. Don't
Yeah.
be in the child's life. I don't need anything from you. Have a nice life. I'll have mine. Speed pass. So my son is approximately 3.5 to 4 months old.
Yeah.
I'm still, oh, mind you, I graduated, which I loved. shortly after,
Okay.
shortly after having him, I graduated, walked across the stage with him in my left arm, my diploma in my right, and I was like, "I did it, Dad!" And he was so happy. He was so
Oh.
happy. Yeah, he was happy. But I remember going to work. My son was about 3.5, 4 months old, and I found out that his father went to jail for robbery.
I
It was
wasn't
crazy.
ready.
It was
Wait
crazy.
a minute. Let
Just
me first ask, did daddy graduate from high school along with you? Because y'all were the same age, right?
he did graduate. Yes, he
So
he
he
did
did this
graduate.
robbery right after y'all graduated
Right
then.
after he started hanging with a very bad crowd and started
Obviously.
getting into drugs and alcohol, and he robbed a store, and I'm like, really? So he ended up serving 15 and a half years.
Oh wow. Somebody got hurt in the robbery, I assume?
Well, he got shot. Yeah.
You was messing with a thug. Hold on? We need to back it up. What kind of white are we talking about? Are we talking John B. White? Or are we talking about
No, like German.
bourgeois?
German, blonde hair, blue eyes, German. Like he was a straight
He
A,
was white.
white. He was straight
Okay, because
A, great kid.
sometimes they have all that flavor, and you know what I mean. No, you're talking
No, he
about
didn't. No,
original.
he wasn't like that. I mean, we had different tastes in music, but we kind of liked it. Like the one thing that we really bonded on back then was we both loved Tupac and Machiavelli, the song Machiavelli.
Okay, now that sounds like the thugged out white. Hold on, now you got to make this make sense to me. Was his personality more rooted in our culture,
No.
or was he like, when I say white boy, I mean Leonardo DiCaprio white, where it's just nothing black about you?
Mm.
How would you
Well, now
describe
now
him?
that you say that, he was a little bit towards our culture, but not too much.
But just enough to rob people.
Right. Like he loved the rap music, but
Okay,
he also loved heavy metal, Metallica, stuff like that. He was very different.
right,
And I
right.
I think that's the part that I liked because like he was just crazy and I was like quiet, but he was also the one that actually showed me some type of affection and love. And
Got
the
you.
funny thing was my dad had asked me some years back after I had my son, you know, why did you feel the need that you had to go out? And I said, in all honesty, from as long as I can remember up until age what, 19, I could honestly say he's told me he's loved me 3 times.
Wow.
3.
You're your father.
My father. So
When they see how that circles back to my long explanation while
it
y'all acting
does.
like I'm like
It
all this
does.
stuff is going to fit together at some point.
It does. But the beautiful part about that is once we had that conversation and we had that open dialogue, he showed my son the love that I didn't get, and he started saying I love you more and spending time with him more. And I'm so thankful because he actually raised my son. Well, both of my parents did, but they raised him to the man that he is today. So now he is in the military. He's 27. He's doing great. Love
Mhm.
that kid. He's currently stationed overseas.
Okay.
But yeah, so at any rate,
So being
let's.
that you were so young, because like I said, I have this experience with my mom, and of course your experience. I mean, you were. I won't say my mom was a bad mom, but it didn't seem like you made the any level of mistakes that my mom made. I feel like just based on the sheer number of mistakes that were made, that we became more of siblings than mother and
We
father. I
did.
mean, than mother and son.
We did.
And I would ask that's the question I'm going to ask you because you guys are so when you look at it, being 17 years apart,
Mhm.
you kind of meet up, later on in life. Like I'm 40, she's 55. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, do you feel, especially in your case, because you had parents that were there to help raise him, like my mom did, and did raise us on our own. So she had that mother role and then tossed it out
Mhm.
the window. So at this point, we feel more like siblings than mother and son. Obviously, I know she's my mom, but it's
Yeah.
just the relationship just feels more like she's an older sister.
Right. With that, the crazy thing was, even though, I had my son,
Mhm.
his father has a different name, but
Okay.
I wanted my son to carry my name and my parents' name. So he has, of course, my maiden name. So
Same.
it
Same.
was funny because they would always look at him and be like, "Wow, is that your mom and dad?" And they would look at my parents, and I'd be sitting
Mhm.
there like, "Yep, sure enough, yep."
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
way we did it. And they'd be like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm his older sister. Hi, nice to
Yep.
meet you."
Yep.
And I
Same,
mean,
same here.
we
My
we did that for
mom, I
years.
carried my mother's I still carry my mother's maiden name.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, she got married right before I turned one. For whatever reason, they never changed my name, and my father had asked about it, and they never got around to it. And I still carry the name to this day. And both my sisters ended up with my dad's name, with the married name,
Oh
and
wow.
it's weird. And I actually feel good about it now because it's funny. We returned to my original church home,
Hmm.
and my uncle. My grandfather's brother was the pastor there, so the church is my mother's last name. So I walk in there,
That's
I
pretty
feel like I'm
cool.
somebody.
That's pretty cool. I like that. But
And
yeah,
I'm carrying that lineage. You know what I mean? So yeah,
yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. Yeah.
But yeah, like we basically we share everything. We talk about everything. Him and I are very open
Yeah.
when we do talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned a very valuable lesson.
Okay.
Just be always think 4 or 5 times over. Be very careful.
Okay. So you said the father spent 15. How many years in prison? Did you say
15
15?
and a half years.
15 years in prison. That's a very long time. So he was well in his 30s, almost 40
Yes.
when he got out. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Now
Okay.
I
So
I
did
tried as best as I could to um take him to visit his son, or for him to visit his dad, but eventually it became very difficult because they kept moving him to different facilities, and in New York there's so many. Like, you got, what was it? First they moved him to Green, which is way like near Albany. Then they moved him to what was another one? Kosaki. Then it was Albion. He was all over. It was a lot, and it's like, okay, that's a lot of hours driving, and then you have to pay for the food. You have to wait like hours on end just to get a visit, and your visit, depending on what time you get in, you may get a visit for an hour, not
yeah.
any longer. So sorry, give me a second.
Sure, no problem. Okay, folks, while we are waiting on her, I need you guys to do me a favor once again. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button. It really does a lot for the channel and helps people to
Oh,
let me
sorry.
know, let them know that I'm out here, that I'm doing great things. This is a great interview. I'm having such a good time. I hope
Yeah,
you
so
guys
sorry.
are enjoying yourself as well.
My husband came in and he's like, the boy is still up. Sorry.
Oh, you're getting in trouble.
Yeah, I was like, well, can we just quickly? Yeah, he's not happy. But yeah, I mean, long story short, in the end, thank God, I graduated. I made something of myself. I did eventually get married and have two beautiful daughters. They are now 22 and one just turned 19 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Um,
That's awesome.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the older baby, she actually went through the same thing I went through, but we didn't
What
treat
do you
her.
mean? She ended up a teenage mama too?
She ended up a teenage mama, but we didn't treat her the way that I was treated. I took her and I held her and I said, you know what? It's gonna well, the thing is we told her about the birds and the bees. I guess she didn't believe me. But
Oh wow.
but when it happened, I said, okay, you know what? We're gonna embrace it. We're gonna love you. Thank you. We're gonna embrace it. We're gonna love you. It's okay. Let's learn from this. And
You
after
did
that
not,
one,
and when you got the news, you did not feel like a failure. As I would feel like a total failure as a parent. I really,
honestly,
really
in
would.
in the back of my head, I wanted to scream and punch her in the face, but I could not show her that side of me because I didn't want her to see the side that I saw of my father. And
They're asking in the comments, is the dad in the picture? I was going to ask this.
oh,
I was actually
which
about to
one?
ask the same question for your son. Did they ever get in relationship?
So
No.
once he got out of jail, his son did try to spend some time with him. However, he found himself a girlfriend and then he got married, but the girlfriend had a couple of other kids, and my son felt like he wasn't the center of attention or like he wasn't getting any attention. So he kind of just cut that off.
Okay.
And it was his decision, because my thing is I'll never keep a child away from his father. If you want to be in your
That's
life, go
good.
ahead. You don't have
That's
to be
good.
in mine, but you do have to be in his.
Yeah.
The last conversation that him and I had, he did say, well, excuse me, he did say, well, yeah, I'm getting married. And I'm like, what about your son? And it was basically in a paraphrase, what about him?
My lord.
And it's like, are you kidding me?
Mm.
But yeah, oh yeah, back to the tattoo. That was why I got the tattoo because he was he was so light, and we'd be in a grocery store and he would start crying, and people really thought I kidnapped him. So that's how I got the first tattoo. I got his name and his date of birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know somebody similar with the biracial baby as well. And she's been they always think she's the nanny. Like she's been
Yes.
it was the root. I'm like, that is the rudest thing you could say to somebody. Yeah, but yeah, so I absolutely, oh, here I go again. I
They
do
think
understand
that.
where you're coming from.
Yeah, they
Wow.
think that. So now when they look at us, they still don't realize that we're mom and son, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
he calls me mom, I call him son. We're happy.
Yeah.
But like every once in a while, they'll mention my parents. They'll be like, "You guys are mom and dad," and we're like, "Yep, they're mom and dad." Who are you? I'm just a sister. But we,
Wow. Okay, so but back to the question from the comments. Is the father of your grandbaby in the picture?
yes,
Oh, very good. Okay, very good.
yes,
Do
they
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 plan on
actually
getting married?
they actually did.
Oh, look at
They
that.
did.
Okay. Well, that's a step in the right direction.
They
That's
did.
really good. Really
Yeah,
good.
I
Really
was I
good.
was so happy. That's actually surprisingly that's one of the ones that I'm raising now.
Okay.
We took custody of one of them because unfortunately they hit a rough patch and we're like, okay, let's take that one. And they decided to let the grandmother keep the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That makes any sense?
Oh, it happens.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so they finally got married, which we're so happy about. We started this thing called slow transition because we both live in the same city and state. So we're starting where they get my grandson on the weekends, and then gradually get into it. But finally, she's starting to find her way. She's
Okay.
working. She has her own place. He's working. He's helping take care of it. Take care of his son as well as his daughter. And oh, they're expecting another one.
Oh wow. They
but
All right.
but I mean, at least this time they did it the right way, and I was
Yeah.
happy. But I supported her through everything, like through the pregnancy, through the birth, through anything she needed. I helped her. This time around, even though now that she's married, I told her this time around, okay, well, not only do you have the hand me downs, but you're pretty set. You know what you're doing. This one, you're on your own. But
Okay.
I'm thankful that excuse me, so sorry. I'm thankful that my parents kind of made me do it the hard way,
Absolutely.
because had they not, I almost feel like I would have had like
You
five,
would have had
six
another
kids,
one. Yep.
and they would have been taking care of them. But
Yep.
no, I had him 5 years later was when I got married and I had my daughter, and then 3 years later I had my other daughter, and I was like, okay, that's it, we're done.
Mm. Okay. In going through what you went through the first time, did it make you apprehensive or scared to be in relationship or less trusting of men in general? How out there, having a man to walk away from it from the child and how did what kind of effect did that have on you, especially
Back
being a
then,
teen mom?
believe it or not, back then, when people heard that you were that young and you had a child, they did not want to deal with you.
Mm.
And if they did,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
if they did, they really wanted one thing. So
Gotcha.
I stuck my nose in books. I took trades, went back, tried, got a little bit of college credits. I did everything I humanly possibly could to stay away from boys for a while until
Okay.
I met my first husband.
Okay.
And then it was a whole nother story.
So, if you had to do it all over again, or if you could reach back and speak to that young girl about to make those mistakes, what advice would you, or what would you say to that young girl?
Be extremely cautious of who you give your heart to. Just because they kiss you and they bat their eyes at you and they tell you they love you, they really don't.
Hmm.
They really don't. Be very careful.
See,
Very careful.
I tell my daughter to guard your heart and guard your parts. I make it plain over here.
Yes, very much so.
You have to. I want my daughter and all daughters to treat their bodies as a prize. You know what I mean? Your body is something that should be earned. It should not be something that's just freely given away. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think that if more women I'm not coming down on women in particular, but women are they hold the keys to the kingdom. This thing doesn't happen except you allow it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think if women as a whole understood the power that they truly have, then I think a lot of this could be prevented, because and boys are going to be boys. They don't care. You know what I mean? They're just looking for a warm place. I'm trying not to be so graphic, but
Yeah.
but but I think that girls need to be taught that early on in life, that you are a prize. Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah, and people should work for it. And I think on the other side, you got these men need to get out of that old mentality that you're not a man until you embedded everything on the block. You know what I mean? If we stop teaching that, or making that the bar for manhood, then I think as a society we'd be doing a whole lot better. And then with regards to church, because we've been talking church all night, we could teach the Bible, we could teach abstinence, but we have to also be very realistic at the same time. We cannot
right.
pretend like people don't have desires. These are your flesh is just your flesh. You know what I mean? And there are
Right.
plenty of people that can fight it, and there are going to be some that simply cannot. And for those that cannot, you need to go out there and make sure that you're protecting them. Again, you're not giving your children permission to go out here and do this stuff. But if
Right.
you're going to do it right. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the way I feel about it. So
Right. Well, we actually at our church,
okay.
we actually have a program to help young mothers so we don't have this issue. It's called Knitted in Love. And
Mm,
what we do is we help young teen mothers up until the age of 22. For the first year of that baby's entire life, we actually help take care of that baby. We give them diapers, food, clothes,
nice.
a bassinet or a crib if needed, car seats, but we also pour the Bible into them. We also pray with them. We also
Hmm.
minister to them. We let them know, it the sin was in the sex not having the baby, because babies, to me, it's always been a gift from God. So we can't fault that. We see that you sinned. Okay, great. We're here now. Let's fix it. So,
I like it.
let's make things better. But we also try to teach them, moving forward, let's try not to do this again. Not only is there abstinence, there's protection, but
Hmm.
boys will say and do anything.
Come
And
on.
I know what I do with my daughters. I
Hmm.
actually had my husband do it. Take them out. Like,
Hmm.
take them to places, not just McDonald's, take them to those high-end five-star
Correct.
restaurants and
Correct.
show them how to be treated. So when a boy says, "Oh, come here, let me take you out," been there,
They're not
done that, got the
impressed.
t-shirt.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
So now
Absolutely.
they get it. Like, especially my youngest, I feel sorry for the guy that comes for her.
Same for my baby, and I'm so active and
I
present
really
that
do.
yeah, it's going to be nearly impossible. It's going to be
Mhm.
really bad. And like for the little guy, she's not officially dating, but it was a little boy that liked her and she liked him, and so he had a birthday. He only invited her and his best friend, and of course. I'm right there. It was the first time he met me. I'm like, listen, I'm very old fashioned. If this is going to be something, when you date my daughter, you're gonna date everybody in this house. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
Exactly.
We're gonna sofa sit, and I don't know if anybody's explained. I'm pretty sure you know what that is, but
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna come and sit on my sofa, and if I'm uncomfortable with you too close, I may sit between the two of you until
Yes.
until you have
Yes.
proven yourself. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a
Exactly.
long time before you can ring this doorbell and take my daughter anywhere. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you're not up for that, if you're not up for that challenge, then you're clearly not the one, because that
Exactly.
my daughter is not gonna be somebody that you run through. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I'm gonna be that wall you got to get past in order to get to her. So we're gonna
Yeah,
see
so
how that
it's
thing goes. We're gonna see
it's
how it goes.
it's like now the one guy that she had met, she actually met him in church,
Hmm.
and he really liked her, and she's like, "Do you have a job? Do you have a car? What do you do for fun? Like, do you go to school? Do you No? Okay. Nice talking to you. Have a good day." And I'm
Yep.
just like, "Lord Jesus, baby, no."
Yep. Yep. Nothing wrong with. I don't see anything wrong with it.
I felt bad for the poor kid.
I don't
I
feel
felt
bad at
bad.
all.
I felt horrible.
I don't feel bad. I put that boy through the ringer.
She's like, "Mom, he doesn't even know how to change a tire." I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." Just
Hmm. Hmm. You
Yeah,
got to.
she's very much independent, much like me, and I'm just like, "Oh boy, I feel sorry for that guy.
Yeah,
I really do."
yeah, yeah. Well, it was. Look, I had another question here, and this was sliding right past me. I hate when that happens. My short term memory is like next to nothing.
Okay.
Next to nothing. It'll come back to me shortly. Before we end this thing, though, what advice would you give to parents out there with teens? And what advice would you give to those young mothers that are out there? Look, this was related to the church thing. Um, well, we'll go there, and then I'll ask my question. Any advice or words that you would give to teenagers out there, that have and will be? Oh, I know what the question is. Look,
Hallelujah.
it finally arrived. The train finally pulled up. Okay, you were talking. You said, and that's oftentimes why I'm interrupting people, because if I don't get it out, it's gonna
Blank.
go.
Gotcha.
You said previously you said that children are a blessing. The sin is in the sex.
Mhm.
Cool, understand that. I posed this question last week. I'm going to ask you the same question. Would you feel that same way if this pregnancy was a product of being assaulted?
Oof.
Ah, ha, ha,
Honestly,
ha, ha. Come on with it.
the sad thing is, yes, I would,
Would you?
but I feel like it's up to the person who was assaulted if you want to give that child up for adoption, or if you want to raise that child, but just don't treat that child as if that child was an assaulted birth, if that makes any
I
sense.
understand exactly what you're saying, but oh, okay. Now I'm gonna make it even more complicated. What if it were your child and your child was 12 when it happened?
I would I would honestly, at that point, I would have to pray and figure out, God, do you want me to take care of this child, or do you want me to give this child to somebody else who can't have a child?
Mm. See
It's
now,
it's tough,
I
but
see that one to me is what hits at the heart. Like,
it's touchy.
okay, what if the child were a product of incest?
Mm.
Oh yeah, I'm just hey, look, come on, I'm gonna challenge your Jesus tonight.
That one, in all honesty, I couldn't give you a yay or nay on. Again, children are a blessing, but incest, like, how could you with your relative? I mean, do I have the option to knock the person off that did this to her?
No, you can't.
Oh,
I'm gonna say I'm going to look. I'll just be fully transparent. I go to church every Sunday. I love the Lord. But if you take it from my daughter and she decides she don't want it, that would probably be the only thing that we. And look, I'm sorry, Jesus. No, she don't want to do it, and I don't want her to do it. So she 12. She
under,
got a life to live. So
well, understandable, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, in our state, it's been banned.
oh yeah, see now. mm, Thanks to your president, we're not gonna go there tonight, though. We're not gonna go there tonight, though.
Well, no, it was really crazy because I don't know. Well, I'm pretty sure you've heard of her, Bevelyn Betty. I can't remember
And they
her. She
wait.
actually,
Is that the one where they waited until she was on death's door to try to help her, and she ended up passing away?
no,
Uh,
that's the one that they sent to prison.
oh no, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Oh no, I
Beverly
didn't know.
Williams. I think you did. No, you didn't do it. Someone else did a TikTok on her. But yeah, she's actually currently serving prison for doing all of that, going to abortion clinics and protesting. But she was one of the ones who actually came down to Texas to help us protest.
Yeah. See that is where again I know what the Bible says with regards to termination. Now I do now when people use termination as just a form of birth control, I do have serious
That's an
issue with that.
issue.
That's an issue for me. But when it comes down to someone violating you, especially a young person, like 12, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I, I don't, I know it's wrong, but we can all pray about that thing. You know what I mean? Sin is a sin. You know what I mean? And I
I'm
just,
hoping though, I'm honestly hoping that whoever does get assaulted in that manner, they tell someone immediately, because even though it's illegal in our state to have abortion, you still have plan B.
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm hoping that works.
Yeah,
If it doesn't, then yeah, we definitely have to figure something out. That
yeah,
it would
yeah,
it would
yeah.
be horrible, but
That is the problem I have with the incoming president. Just those type scenarios, and then I bring in my wife, and again, I'm gonna try not to get into a super long testimony, but my daughter, the 16-year-old, her name is Faith, and rightfully so. Faith is self-explanatory. Her middle name is Renee. It means born again. My wife nearly passed away. If you watch my documentary, it's all in the documentary. But my wife nearly passed away during the first term of that pregnancy. And if you watch the documentary, it's only an hour. It's cut up into four pieces, really, really good. But the first piece, the maybe part two that deals with faith exclusively, and you get to walk through the entire pregnancy because I've always been a picture person, I've always been a video person. So we've been together forever, so I like to document it. And then I had no intention of having a second child, at least. Oh, that's another long story, but so I wanted to document everything I could the first time around. So we get pregnant. We only tried for about 3 months after we decided to have a baby, and we've been married for 3 years. She ends up hospitalized. She's diagnosed with hyperemesis, which basically severe morning sickness. But hers was the worst that the hospital had ever seen. It had gotten so bad that they had to she had to be put on a feeding tube, which you see in the documentary, and then they had to actually use a tube to keep the saliva from forming in her mouth because that was also making her vomit. She was not a
aw.
big woman to begin with, and she was about this big pregnant. That first, I mean, she came home, she looked like she'd been smoking the powder. It was really bad. And basically, Faith was acting as a parasite, taking everything from her, the life. And I will never forget the day she walked. The doctor walked into the room. Her veins were she had problems with the veins and keeping the IVs in, so they were getting ready to do a pick line on her. And
Mhm.
the doctor came in and said, basically, look, and I'm 24 at the time, or 23 at the time, having to make these life and death decisions. If you don't terminate this baby, you're going to lose both of them. And it wasn't until that very moment that I ever even considered it. You know what I mean? Because it was just a no, absolute no. But
Right.
when it came down to a being that was, you know, this big that I didn't know anything about versus the woman that I know and love. And you're telling me not only are we going to lose this baby that has no chance of living outside this womb and the woman, it became a very real possibility for me and that at that time.
Mhm.
And I looked at her and I'm like, okay, it's up to you. If you can't fight anymore, I totally understand because this right here, you are dying. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And she was heavily medicated at the time, but she mustered up just enough courage to say that I'm going to have this baby, even if it kills me. And when I say the fear that I experienced, and that's why our kids are 13 years apart. That's
Mhm.
that's the gist of the testimony. But I was so gripped in fear because I was helpless at that moment. There was nothing. She's going to die with this baby. The baby that we both wanted. You know what I mean? But glory to God, things eventually turned around. She came home. She had to come home on a feeding tube as well. And she was 6 months pregnant before she got to eat a piece of solid food without it coming back up. Never forget.
Aw.
It was a cheese puff. She ate a single cheese puff and we waited and it didn't come back up. And she grabbed me and held on to me, and I'm trying not to cry right now. And she cried for 2 hours because that was the first piece of nourishment that didn't come.
That she
The
had
thing,
had.
correct. The things that people just take for granted. You take for granted that you're going to be able to eat. You know what I mean? And when there's something that simple is taken away from you, it just does something to your psyche. But I'm saying all that to say, and this is why I'm not so happy with the incoming president. At least at that time, my wife had a choice. You know what I
Yes.
mean? If she decided she decided to choose her own life over this fetus, she could have. The way it is set up now, she no longer has that choice, and she would simply die. You see what I'm saying? So that is why for that personal experience, I just don't feel like men should have the right to tell women what to do with their bodies. That's just it. There are no rules around. Nobody controls my sperm or
Right.
when and where to procreate. None of those things. But somehow you guys are able to police a woman's womb, and I just have serious problems with just based on that one experience. Again,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
understandable.
yeah, there. So that's I'm that for that reason I'm totally against it. Absolutely. And again, I'm not one of those people that say, "Hey, let's just go out here and just get rid of it." No, but when it's medically necessary, or when it's one of those type situation, incest, rape, that it should be an option. It just that's just the way I feel about it. Yeah, and we want to talk about sin. There are plenty of them. Hey, Trump sins all the time. You know what I mean?
That he does.
Yeah,
That
you
he
got
does.
34 felonies. You are out here
Oh,
assaulting
stop
women.
it.
Okay, come on, let's
Stop
get real
it.
about this thing. You was cheating on the first lady with a porn star. Come on now. Don't you don't sound like much of a preacher.
No
Again,
comment.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I know that's your boy. But you got to admit that I'm making some valid
Well,
points.
I mean, everybody makes valid points when it comes to presidential candidacy, but I still stay behind Trump. We're not going to get political though.
That's fine. But when it comes down to the reproduction thing, that's where I draw the line. I drew the line with that. It was just a lot of other stuff I could tolerate or handle. I didn't like, a lot of other things. Again, we won't turn it into the political show, but yeah, for that experience that I walked through with watched my wife walk through Dale's door or knock at Dale's door, and there was an option there that is no longer there, and she would just basically die on the table. I have issues with that. So Oh,
Understandable.
that was the question. I thank God it finally came back.
Yes.
It was a
But
good one. It was a good one.
to answer your question for the teenagers who are
Sure.
mothers, whew, I would basically tell them to, number one, keep God first.
Mm.
Know that what you have done when you brought a child into this world, you did not sin. The sin was in creating that child, but a child is a gift from God. So don't make it
But
seem
but
like
wait
you're.
wait 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 hold
Uh-huh.
on now, because we ain't talking political. We're talking biblical. Preacher's kid, is that
Oh, I'm
child not a
sorry.
bastard? Biblically, we're talking biblically.
Biblically,
Just
yes.
strict,
Biblically, yes, the
a
child is.
bastard child that is separated
But,
from God.
but God gave them that child.
Did
In
he?
the Bible,
Did
it
he?
says, well, I mean, a child didn't come from Satan. In the Bible, it says children are gifts from God. So I mean, I
Not the
so
bastard babies. Hey, I can say it because I am a bastard child. Nobody can get mad
listen.
at me.
In that case, I have one. Thank you. My daughter has one. Thank you.
I'm just saying.
No, but
Biblically, you're a bastard. God is frowning on these bastards now. I'm trying to
no,
understand
I mean,
how do we reconcile those two things? Obviously, a sin is a sin, and
it
the way
is
I truly reconcile it is no sin is greater than the other. So at the end of the day, I
right.
will agree with you. Me having this bastard child is no different than telling a lie or cheating or stealing.
Exactly.
It all in the eyes of God, all sin counts. What people can't wrap their head around is if I go out there and poke somebody and they pass, God sees a lie is just the same because anything that you do sinfully separates you from God. And we
Yes.
as humans just tend to put sins on tiers, but they're all the same. They're literally
Right.
all they're
But
all
when children are born, they're also born innocent,
Mhm.
and they're also born without sin. So I still stand by that. Children are gifts from God. Just try to learn from what has happened, try to grow from what has happened, and basically try to get your life on track where it needs to be.
Mhm.
As far as the parents, for the love of baby Jesus, please talk to your children.
Come
Talk
on.
to them
Come on.
openly. Talk to them about the birds and the bees. Talk to them about sex. Don't tell them, well, if you do this, I'm going to cut you off. If you do this, you're going to. Please don't do that. Talk to them openly, honestly. Let them know the pros and the cons, the ins and the outs. Let them know if they even so much as think
Mhm.
they may want to be interested in someone. Let's go ahead and start getting you on contraceptive or doing other avenues just to be on the safe side. But that's pretty much the best advice I could give.
I think that is excellent advice.
Thank
Look,
you.
our interview has run 2 hours.
Yes, and my poor baby, he back there screaming.
I am so sorry.
It's
But
okay.
it was wonderful. It was great. You know what I mean? I just love it. I have to take the time once again to just say thank you so much for coming up, sharing your testimony, and
Yes,
giving
for having
and
me.
giving something to the people tonight. You know what I mean?
Yes,
This is what I love. These are the conversations that I prefer. I know people love me over there, but it was Jerry Springer. This
yes,
Montel
this is
Williams.
better. I
Yes.
love it.
This is for the grown folks.
Yes,
So
and thank you
I
so
want
much
to
for
thank you.
having
You
me.
are welcome back anytime. We'll end this portion of the show. And actually, I'm going to end this live completely because this is such a beautiful moment. I don't want it to be coupled with all the trash that we're going to talk about.
Gotcha.
So when people come in, I can separate it and put a nice label on it so that they know this is the interview and this, when I describe it, it's strictly me and you and what we accomplished in this moment. So with that, I'm going to end this live. Anybody that wants to come back, give me about 3 minutes and I'll be right back and then we'll get into the trash.
Thank you all.
So thank you so much for this
Thank you.
interview. Thank you for this moment. I do hope that I was a pretty good interview and that I wasn't too
Yes.
tough on you and
No, you
that
were great.
and that you feel educated, enlightened, and entertained, because that's my goal each and every time I come up here. So that's really good. Thank you so much. I'm hitting the end, and I'll be back in 5.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right.